Welcome back to the Brother Show. I'm your host, K Mo. Tonight I have a good friend of mine coming on tonight, and it's on series 2 of How Did I Get Here? We'll be back in one second. Welcome back to the Brother Show. I'm your host, K Mo. Tonight I'm having a second series, as I mentioned last time, on How Did I Get Here? And so we talked about last week, how did I get here? And just having a conversation with some brothers and some good men who are currently married and have been married for quite some time. And can talk a little bit about how they got here in their marriage. And so, especially during the time we have, how do I get a partner during a hookup culture? And so I know it's difficult to really have those type of conversations, but I have a dear friend of mine, a longtime friend, a brother, someone I consider and have a lot of respect for, Reverend Nathaniel Robinson. Come on in. How you doing, brother?
Hey man, how's it going?
It's going great, man. Yeah, you're a big time now. So I'm glad we finally able to actually get on here and have conversation about a lot of different things. I know you could talk about a whole lot of different things, but when I was having these series and talking to men, you were one of the ones I wanted to get on earlier last year. And it just so happened this particular topic came at the right time. So we were actually talking about this, and I was like, hey, let's try and do this. And so you agreed to do it. So thank you for participating and able to give your insight on having conversations around the hookup culture and how you were able to get to where you are, but also how you talk to other people. So tell people who you are.
All right. Well, my name is Reverend Nathaniel Robinson III. Presently the senior pastor of Greater St. Paul African Methodist Episcopal Church in Miami, Florida, and an area of Miami called Coconut Grove. If you're from Miami, you know what Coconut Grove is. Been married for 17 years. I always say that my wife's been my wife for 17 years, but she's been my girlfriend for 23 years. Been married for a long time. We produced one child at our union. I had a son that was born prior to us being married. So I have 2 children. I am presently the president CEO of St. Paul Community Development Corporation. Just do a lot of different things in the community, but as it relates to this subject, been married, probably done marriage counseling and officiated over 100 weddings at this point. I'm a certified premarital counselor and marriage counselor. I'm listed in with the county. So people who come to Miami-Dade County want to get married, I get calls all the time, and I do premarital counseling for couples of all ethnicities and backgrounds.
Awesome, man. So you're definitely able to talking about this with us tonight. And so, before we even get started on some of the questions I had to ask you, so how did you and your wife meet?
Met in college.
Okay.
Met in college. Both of us attended Florida Memorial University in Miami. And it's really interesting. When we met, we were just friends. To be honest, she had a boyfriend at the time. I was dating somebody at the time.
Okay.
And so we just met in college as good friends.
Yeah, nice. So what are some of the things you talked about? You're able to have conversation with people during this time. I know you were married years ago before social media really hit the fan, right?
Yep.
So and I was at the wedding, and
that's
so
right.
So for it to transition into be where it is now with dating, and again, I know we've evolved as human beings, but with this cancel culture and things like that, what are some of the things you talk to? What are some of the differences between the newer generation, I would say 35 and under, and the folks who are a little bit older, or more of our age range? What are some of the things that you see or challenges that you hear the most? Maybe your top 2 things that you hear from both sides. The 20 year, 35 and under, and then the 35 and up.
Well, man, I think the difference is the 35 and older group have fewer outside influences. Most of like my group, us, our age and older, we were raised with similar values. We came from similar communities, similar value systems, and so we kind of met within the bubble of our culture. What's happening now with with the younger generation is that people have lots of different morals, different values, different
Right.
upbringings, and they come from different. The world has just gotten so much smaller with the introduction of cable TV and social media
Mm-hmm.
and the internet. So there are a lot of these different outside influences on what people think
Mm-hmm.
a relationship ought to be.
Mm-hmm.
We had the Huxtable family. We looked
Yeah.
at that was, that was the relationship, right?
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
a doctor, she's a lawyer.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Move into a house, raise your kids.
Mm-hmm.
But they have, the Real Housewives and
Mm,
Basketball Wives and all these different
mm,
influences that culture teaches them about what relationships should be. Um, and so those are, I would say, if I had to contrast the two groups, it
mm-hmm.
would be the outside influences, the differences in culture and morals and values that they bring to the relationships.
What's the commonality with those two groups? What are some of the common things you hear from both?
The common, I think, was common, as is that nobody wants to be alone. I
Mm-hmm.
think everybody embraces and understands that human beings are created. We're social creatures, that we're
Mm-hmm.
created to be with somebody,
Right.
and I think that doesn't change.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, I could just think about like even transitioning from the Huxtables, right? It was Martin and Gina.
Yeah,
It was in the 2000. It was My Wife and Kids. Everything was like relationship oriented, and it seemed like at what point it just kind of spread to being so individualized. Like, can you talk a little bit about like why do you feel like it's been so? They're trying to keep us separate. That's what I feel like.
yeah. I mean, let's even talk about Martin and Gina, because that was
Hmm.
a good relationship for us. But Martin and Gina lived together for years and they weren't married.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it was different, and they didn't have
Hmm.
any children.
Right.
So it was just a totally different relationship. But some of the challenges, I mean, if I can kind of jump into challenges I think we're
Hmm.
facing, is that the ratio of men to women,
Mm.
um, is becoming more and more disproportionate. I mean, when women talk to me, the issues that women are having is there aren't any men available. Like all of the good men are already married or taken, right?
Mm.
And if you look at statistically, statistically they're right. Statistically there are more women available than men. And then when you really look at what women would consider a good man or a
Hmm.
suitable partner, those numbers are just inflated, based on what the criteria that women look for in a man. But from the men's side, men are struggling with uh, the women. There's just this women empowerment kind of
Hmm.
movement, um,
Feminism. Yeah.
and so there's a lack of gender roles,
Mm.
or an adjustment in gender
Hmm.
roles,
Right.
um, which doesn't really fit into how men are raised to understand
Yeah.
the relationships to
Yeah.
be. And then we got Jay-Z, who says, I don't want gender
Mm.
roles,
Mm.
you know, but
Yeah.
Jay-Z can say that, because
Yeah. He's
the
Jay
relationship,
Z. Yeah.
the relationship. I mean, Beyonce is definitely able to bring everything to the table that he is. So it's just, the men struggle with the gender roles and women struggle with the fact the disproportionate number of women there are available than men.
It's funny that you say that because Jay Z may. I didn't hear him say that, but if he did say that, and I'm sure he did, he also has a woman from Houston, Texas,
Yeah,
from
there
the
you go.
South. So even in her blood, she got some gender roles in her.
Right,
So
right, right,
you can say that as much as you want. You're not probably dating somebody who is so against it in the sense of not looking towards as being a motherly figure in her
right.
in his life. So I mean that's yeah. What are three things and when you in your marriage, right? So what are the three things you look for in a marriage, just in general?
Man,
And what are the
my
top three
marriage,
things?
my marriage
And,
was
and, and I'm sorry. Let's not start with your marriage. Just say
okay.
just in marriage in general. If you were giving advice to people who are trying to get married, what are three things that you would say they need to look for marriage?
Well, I think the first thing I would say is, you know, be able to define what it is you want, right? You know, don't just come to the table looking for. I would want to know. I think you got to find a partner who knows what they're looking for, right? You don't want to date a person or you know, consider courting or being in a serious relationship with somebody who doesn't know what they want, right? So find a person who at this moment, at this space and time, they know what they want. Secondly, you want somebody who has the ability to change and evolve and understands that
Mm-hmm.
you are going to change and evolve.
Mm-hmm.
Because the truth is, I got married 17 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the person I was 17 years ago, I'm not that guy
Mm-hmm.
today.
Absolutely.
And I think a misconception in marriage or in relationships is I fell in love with this person. I'm getting married to this guy or this woman.
Mm-hmm.
And when they change and evolve, this you aren't the person I married.
Right.
So I think the second expectation or the second thing you got to look for is a person who's evolving and a person who understands that you're going to evolve, right? And can change with you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then there have to be some similarities and commonalities, whether it be spiritual. I know some people are moving away from the religious thing, but whatever your religious commonalities, your spiritual commonality, there has to be that. There have to be some morals and values,
Mm-hmm.
some similar uh,
Mm-hmm.
understandings about rearing children,
Mm-hmm.
financing, budgeting. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so the commonalities have to be there and have to be
Mm-hmm.
discussed.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say my top three, if I had to give them, would be a person who knows what they want, a person who has the ability to change and evolve and understands that you will, and then like those commonalities have to be there.
So talk a little bit about the evolvement. Um, when you are, I personally feel like after a man is 35, he is who he is. That's just my personal opinion. I think you're evolved, right? But the changes that we have when we're 25 and 35 are way different than I think from 35 until 50 as a man. In the sense of we're still have a level of immaturity that we have to build to until we're about 35. I think once we get there as a man, you are who you're going to be. Now, evolving into a 40-year-old man, into a 50-year-old man, is different as far as like maturity. But I feel like before 35, you're immature. You're still trying to figure things out. Not saying you're still not trying to figure things out, at 40 or at 50, but I think it's just a different transition than it is from when you're 21-year-old to 35-year-olds, because you're still trying to figure out who you are as an individual. I think by that time, we all kind of know, men and women, we kind of know who we are. Unless a woman, I think the big, evolution or evolvement from a woman is if she bears children. When we start going through, illnesses and things that we are going to hit, and we're close to hitting that, and we'll know how we are able to evolve with that. That's what I feel like is more of an involvement as far as us being, more of an adult as opposed to us being immature and having a fun life. And I'm not saying life isn't fun after 35, but more of an enjoyable life when we get to understand like this is who we are and how do we evolve with each other moving forward. What do you have to say about that?
I mean, I think I would have to agree with what you're
Mm-hmm.
saying overall. I mean, there's some little
Yeah.
nuanced things in there that I might see a little differently, but overall, you're right. It's almost like children. They
Right.
grow a lot from infant, like they grow faster from infant to 5, and then it slows down.
Yeah.
And then from 5 to 15, they grow, and then but it's not as fast as from infant to and then when they're
Mm-hmm.
18, they kind of stop growing,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
but they can still grow, so still develop, I guess. So when you talk about maturity, I think you're spot on. Of course, little variations here
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there with the ages, but you're right. Once you hit a certain age, a certain maturity level, that's where you're going to be as far as your maturity
Mm-hmm.
goes. But we still evolve,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because things happen. I mean, because you may evolve in your career, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, so your finances change and your financial outlook, and then some of us have spiritual awakenings in our 40s, and
Mm-hmm.
so we change the way we do and see a lot of things. And can our partner can handle what that
Mm-hmm.
change is spiritually? Because I might
Mm-hmm.
not want to do things that have value to me no longer have that
Right.
value.
Right.
So evolution, I think, is constantly happening.
Mhm.
And then you get to a point where things kind of go in reverse for you.
Mhm.
And, so when you hit like 65, 70, that's
Yeah.
another evolution. I mean,
Mhm.
it may not be on the an ascent, but things are changing.
Yeah.
There's some things I can't
You
do.
can't do anymore. Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
some things
Yeah.
that were important in our relationship, that I can't perform in certain areas anymore.
Mhm.
So so now I got to redefine what our relationship is.
Right.
So
Right.
I think while maturity may stop at a certain place, there are other areas of life where we're constantly evolving. I mean, all the way to the grave, because even being a pastor, we see people go from being up, vibrant, athletic to now my wife has to take care of me, my spouse, my husband has
Mhm.
to help me get in and out of the bed or
Mhm.
take a
Yeah.
bath.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's a different level of relationship, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I got to redefine how I see this woman or how she sees me, because she's
Mhm.
got to do all of this stuff for me. The evolution is continuous
Yeah.
all the way until we take our last breath.
And I think, and I'm only speaking because our generation with the Huxtables and the Martins and Ginas, um, I think we saw the togetherness and the
Yep.
staying with. So the maturity is so important because that understanding of what you're talking about is like, well, this is my responsibility as a husband.
Yep.
I'm finding and dating and just knowing, like, listening to other people and other men. I don't think if the maturity isn't there, the understanding isn't there for where you are, especially if men want to date, you know, a woman wants to date older or things like that. Like you have to understand both sides, and I think that comes with the maturity and
Yeah.
understanding. Um,
And the bigger thing, I want to go back to something because you asked me my
okay,
top three, and I got
okay,
to add one in there.
okay.
Um, I think is super important and this is what I teach in my premarital counseling and sometimes in my marriage counseling: conflict resolution skills or conflict
Mm,
management skills. Right?
mhm. Yeah,
Every relationship is going to experience conflict. I mean, you're going to experience it. There will be conflict, right?
absolutely.
But most people, believe it or not, at different stages of life, have very poor
Mhm,
conflict management skills.
mhm,
And so the idea is to be with a person who is willing to add to their tool bag,
mhm,
continue to gather more tools for
mhm,
conflict management and
mhm,
to grow and evolve. If a person can't manage conflict,
mhm.
you're in trouble because conflict
Yeah,
will happen. I told my wife, hey, when I married you, I signed up for 300 years, right?
absolutely,
And in that
absolutely.
time, I'm going to do something that upsets you because I'm a human. And you're going to
Mhm,
do something that upsets me. But
mhm.
if we have the skills to manage conflict, then we can make it through. So,
But I think that's the hardest part right now, Nate. Like, I mean, for real, like let's really have this conversation. What you talking about right now? I
yeah.
had that problem all the time. Yeah, I I believe that even if I don't like something, I can at least have a closure or conversation with somebody if it doesn't work out. That's
Mm,
still to me conflict resolution. So for you, when you're having these conversations, I believe the world is running away from conflict. Everything is so sensitive now. So how do you date now in this culture of not having conflict resolution, or everybody's fearing it or staying, shying away from that type of conversation?
I think, and I've seen it over and over again. We just
Hmm.
have to introduce the idea, right?
Okay.
You can teach people to fight.
Hmm.
You can take a person who's afraid to throw a punch and teach them how to
Hmm.
fight, right?
Right.
And so you can teach people to do things that they're uncomfortable with. And that's the point.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so you just got to introduce the idea. When I tell couples, listen, the point of counseling is not to prevent you getting into having disagreements.
Because you're gonna
And they're
have
like,
it's gonna
oh, wait,
happen.
it's okay for us to disagree. One of the
Yeah.
questions I ask in premarital counseling is, how often do you have arguments?
Hmm.
And if they tell me, oh, we never argue, then you're not
That's a
ready to
problem.
get married,
Nah, not even a little bit. Mm-mm.
right? Because that means you're not communicating with each other. You're
Right.
not being
Hmm.
honest, right? So I think when we introduce the idea to people that, hey, you are going to have conflict, it's going to happen,
Hmm.
and you just got to be ready for it. You have to
Yeah.
prepare. So I think in a world where people shy away from conflict, we have to take the extra steps to introduce the idea that conflict is going to happen. You have to manage it. And you said something something else. I think another challenge, Corey, is that people want to always find closure, right? We've been
Hmm.
taught that. Like let's get some closure. Let's have a conversation. And closure is so final, right?
Hmm.
But what I teach in my premarital counseling is that we've got to learn that you won't always find closure, but you have to learn to come to terms, right?
Mm.
So we
Mm.
have these phones,
Mm.
these phones, and we get these apps on our phones.
Hmm.
And before we install them, they say, "Do you agree to the terms?" Right?
Hmm.
Well, the truth is, no, we don't agree to all that stuff. I
Right.
don't
Yeah.
agree that you can access my microphone whenever you
Right.
want to.
Right.
I don't
Right.
agree that you can access my camera when I'm in the shower, but I want the app. So I'm going
Hmm.
to come to terms with you so that I can get what I want out of this situation. And so
Man.
in relationships, you don't always have closure, but you
Hmm.
but you got to learn how to come to terms so that both of you can continue to make progress in the relationship.
That's a good one right there, man. I haven't thought about it like that. So now we're gonna twist this and go to you, right? So
Okay.
we talk about other people, but now I'm gonna go strictly to you and talk a little bit so men can kind of understand. And actually, I like to do these conversations, Nate, and I've talked to you offline about it, so that I think it's healthy for women to like know what we're thinking. And we oftentimes we grew up with our parents. Sorry, we grew up with men in our lives not saying anything. We had to suck it up. We had to,
That's right.
we remember just them having the reclining chair in the living room, granddaddy, great
Yeah,
granddaddy, and they sitting there and they ain't say nothing. That's all we remember. They, how take care of your mama, take care of your that type of thing. And it
that's
was
it.
never a level of like conflict or conflict resolution that we got from them. It was never anything they sat down and said, "This is how it's supposed to be done." Um, so with that said, talk a little bit about like, when you were growing up, especially when you met around the time you met your wife, like why do you believe that your family, your parents thought she was a good fit for Nate?
Man, it's crazy. My parents loved her right away.
Okay.
Like right away. And she was still, and she can hear me talking. She's upstairs. I'm pretty sure she can hear me
Okay.
talking. She was still rough around the edges at that time.
Uh-huh.
She
She's from Miami, right?
she's from Fort Lauderdale.
Fort Lauderdale.
Fort
Okay.
Lauderdale area for those people who are watching who know about Fort Lauderdale. She's from Sunland, area called
Okay.
Sunland in Fort Lauderdale. So Dixie Court to be exact. So she I think my dad's thing was like, she's willing to accept
Mm.
you when you have nothing,
Mm.
because she was
That's
like,
important.
I just want to just go ahead and let's do it. I want to be official. And I was like, but I don't have anything.
Mm.
Like, I'm in grad school in Atlanta and I'm living in a dorm. Like, I can't
Mm.
move you into my dorm. And
Right,
she was
right.
like, we'll live in the dorm together until we can do
Hey,
something.
hey, okay, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I was
Uh-huh.
like, but I don't even really have, like, I'm working at Old Navy right now. Like, I ain't really got it. And she was
Right.
like, and then she literally came to Atlanta and got a job at the Gap, bro. Like,
Stop it.
it was
Stop it.
like, so my parents, I think, were really just sold on the fact that my parents knew my potential. My
Oh,
parents knew I was
absolutely.
going to be, something
Hmm.
special, or I was going to evolve into something, a good man at some point. And 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 Angel was willing to be with me with nothing.
Mm.
And my dad's was like, you got to be with somebody who's going to want you without nothing, so that when you get
Hmm.
it, you'll know she's not with you for what you get. And he was right, because God has blessed me tremendously, Corey. Like,
Hmm. Yeah.
humbly, respectfully,
Hmm.
things are going very well for me and my family. God's been good to us, and I'm glad that I have somebody who, especially in today's world where everybody's so materialistic,
Hmm.
I'm glad I have somebody who's with me, who was with me, and our relationship isn't dependent upon what we have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a struggle that I hear a lot of my guys and the guys on the show, guys offline will talk about. And I understand, we grew up as men, like you have to be prepared for that. Like this is a responsibility for us. And it's not just, we all had the security piece in the sense of how we presented ourselves as human beings, as men. That financial piece is real.
Oh
And
yeah.
so as much as we say it, that's also something that it comes with. And that's why I feel like men take a little longer to get there. And I don't think that's preached enough, because I feel like the younger guys, they still want the bag, they still want that, but they're showing these things like they have it, but in the back, do they have a 401k? Do they have these savings and things like that? And
No.
once they get in a relationship, then they don't have it. And it's like, well, I thought these things represented who you were. Like, no, I mean, it does cost to do all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, I believe that social media has really hurt us in that sense, and thinking we can get the quick bag. Now, it happens for some of us, but
Yeah.
it's a billion people in this in this country. So what
Yeah.
does that look like for us? What are you hearing a lot of the materialistic things, even in, when you talk to your congregation or even in your marriage counseling? Is that a thing, or do you feel like it's even similar to something that you had back then?
Well, I'll tell you this: the people who are that materialistic usually don't make it to marriage
Mm-hmm.
counseling.
Mm.
So I want you to hear that.
That's
I
real
want
talk. No, that's real
the
talk.
listeners, yeah,
Real
people who are
talk.
watching, I want you to hear that. The people who are materialistic, they don't make it to marriage counseling. Because they don't want to find out. Marriage counseling isn't just coming and me telling you what the Bible says about being married. Marriage counseling is about exposing you to yourself in front of your potential partner, right? And then
It's
creating.
uncomfortable.
Say again?
It's uncomfortable.
It's a very uncomfortable situation. And people who are materialistic, they don't want to use that energy. They are not interested in being uncomfortable or exposing themselves or learning more about. They just want what they want.
Yeah.
So I've not encountered a serious couple in marriage counseling that were materialistic.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. What were the key
And
things?
then also, I got to be fair. In all fairness, I got to say, I choose, if they're not members of my church, I choose couple. I have a preliminary conversation and say, no, I'm not going to be able to. Not going to be able to take you.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, because you can't help them. Like, it's a waste of your time, and your time is precious. So, and you know what it is because you've been doing it for 17 years. So,
yeah.
So back on you again. What do you believe were the key things your wife did to hold your attention while getting to know her?
Man, this is a great question. This is a great question because when Angel and I were getting to know each other, we were both dating other people. We were just friends.
Okay.
We were just friends. So what, we did. I don't even remember. We've sat down and talked about it several times. We don't even remember when the relationship turned into something romantic, because she was like, we were homies, And so I think what really mattered most when both of us were transitioning from college into grad school and becoming like adults and living on our own, what mattered most is that we trusted each other. Like, she knew like every part of me, the good, the bad stuff I was doing with other people, that I, mistreating people in relationships, held me accountable. And I think the thing that really pushed me over the edge is that I'm honest enough and transparent enough to acknowledge that I have some gifts that allow me to be manipulative. Right.
Hey,
I'm honest enough to be vulnerable and admit publicly that I can manipulate a situation. I can manipulate people. I can, if I really wanted to. But my wife was a person that I couldn't manipulate. She could see right through it. And I needed that. So my situation is really Say it again?
Well, give me a time. You mentioned I had this series of topic before, and I'm really looking because I heard you say a couple things, but I want you to pinpoint the thing that you was like, because to me when I heard you talk about it, it was her moving from Florida to Atlanta. Like, to me, like that's because people don't do that anymore,
right.
Especially women. Like, I mean, I know it's a different time now, but her moving, you had to have given her something to say, I'm going to trust in this man to move to another state. So because we hear the other thing, we hear the other things, right? We hear other women moving for different reasons, but I know you.
Yeah.
And I know what type of person you are. So, but and I don't know her like that, but I've met her, and I also know whoever you're going to be around, that's going to be a different type of woman. I didn't have to meet her to know Nate to know
Yeah,
what type of woman she was. You
yeah,
understand what I'm saying? Immediately, I'm like, oh, I didn't know Nate gonna be with somebody that's gonna take care of him and it's gonna drive him to be a better person. So that person, what was it about her that thing that she did? It was like that's the one.
bro. I couldn't manipulate. She was when her moving to Atlanta wasn't me saying, "Hey, are you willing to make the sacrifice to move?"
Uh huh.
Her moving to Atlanta was, "You are going to take care of us."
Hey.
It was you can do it, and you are going to do it.
Mhm.
I'm coming.
You and my husband,
Yes.
basically.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
This is
and
it.
I
Yeah.
knew I was right, but
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was I was a bachelor in Atlanta.
Exactly.
You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
In
23.
the early 2000s.
Yes, you know
Right.
what I'm saying, right? So and I was in a dorm in the AU Center, you know,
Mm,
and her moving to Atlanta was not me saying, "Oh, this I think it's amazing that you're making this sacrifice." It was
right.
her her pushing the best out of me, seeing
Hmm.
through my manipulative conversation. Like, dude, you're not gonna manipulate this.
Right.
We're in a relationship. We're gonna be together. I'm coming, and you're gonna be the man for us.
Mm.
You know. So
Accountability. You can't. Yeah.
what it was for me is that Angel pushed me to be the best me.
Hmm.
Even before we were
Absolutely.
dating,
Mm.
even when we were just friends, she could just call it like, nah, bro, you could do better. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? So I think that's what it was for me. It was her seeing my potential and not allowing me to be less, not allowing me to
Yeah.
live beneath who I had the
Hmm.
potential to be.
Hmm.
She just wouldn't allow it. And I was like, I need that. Like that's it right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. How do you know she's the one? How did you know it?
Man,
How,
I think that's what makes it so beautiful, Corey, is because you don't know until you experience it's all a risk, right? I mean, you pray about it and you ask
yeah.
God to speak to you, and and you go through all of the checks and all of the things that you think,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
but if I could be honest with us, we don't know. We don't know how we're going to evolve. We don't know how our spouse is going to change and evolve. You don't know really, and that's what makes the relationship so beautiful. Is that
Hmm.
there is it shouldn't be a lot, but there should be some calculated uncertainty.
Hmm.
Like I'm taking my heart out of my chest and I'm giving it to you, and I'm believing you to do the right thing.
Yeah. Hmm. That's a beautiful thing, and I want to start right there because for me, when people ask me about things and they're doing this, they're doing that, and I would say the one thing that I really have is I have freedom. And what I mean by that is, if I go through one relationship to the next, yeah, we have to heal and get over things. But I really believe I have freedom in the sense of not feeling like I can't do that. And I feel like the world has kept us from, like you mentioned, putting your heart out there and being who Nate is, being who Angel was. A lot of women can't do that. A lot of women can't say, I'm going to trust in God that I'm going to go all the way to Georgia and this man is going to be able to take care of me. And what I put in him and I put in the effort is going to manifest into something that's bigger.
Yeah,
And I
and
think that's what I'm hearing you say right now.
that's exactly what you're hearing. And just to add for the
So
listeners,
fear.
that but it was calculated
Yeah.
because we had known each other for 5 years
Okay.
before all of that took place. So it wasn't rushed.
Hmm.
We'd known each other for five
Hmm.
years before that happened. So
So with that, people who get older, we were go back to your teenage and middle school years when we remember the guys who were 40 and 45 and 50, and they would be married, our uncles or whatever, and they have a female friend with them, and
mhm,
this is Dolores, this is Ethel or whoever it was, and they were together for like a year or two, and they got married because they know who they are. So with
right,
that said, that generation of people now who get like, because I would say that people know now.
yeah,
You get to be you reach that maturity level and you've gone through things. I feel like you all met at a time where you're still trying to figure things out in
we
life,
were,
And that's I think that's even harder. What you all did was even harder because you're young and innocent, but the evolution of what each one of you are going to turn into is boggling,
Yeah.
right? But now you know who you are, you know what you've come into, and now you're just meeting a person. Even with your marriage counselor, you're thinking about that. We don't have 5 years, right? We don't have 10 years or 3 years if you're trying to date seriously and possibly have children and have your own family. So what were those things that you feel like you're in your situation with dating helped translate her into a wife? Like you were dating for 5 years. I get that. And you knew this was going to be your wife. But what was that one or two things that you would say that went from girlfriend to wife?
And again, I would just have to say, it's all, when you're in a relationship, it's usually, you know, so I'm a giver. So it's, what can I
Mm-hmm.
give to this person? What can I offer
Mm-hmm.
to this person? How can
Mm-hmm.
I help her, make her better, make her,
Right. Mm-hmm.
but what she was giving me back was, I'm going to make you better. Like, I'm going to push
Mm.
you to be your best. I'm going to,
Mm, mm,
and so what really pushed it over the top for me is that she wasn't only looking for what she could get from me.
mhm,
She was looking for what she could pour into me.
mhm,
And so you go from girlfriend to wife when you are willing to pour into a person that's equally pouring into you and
mhm,
want to see them maximize their potential.
mhm, mhm.
I want
I
you
don't
to
I
be
don't hear
better
that too
than
much.
you.
I don't hear that too much.
No.
I hear that, we try to save each other. You try
Mm,
to save her, or I feel like a lot of successful women, I don't want to call it dating down, or they date guys who they can build up.
right.
It's a project,
It's a project.
you
Yeah.
know, but I don't hear you saying you were a project. I just hear you say you were where you needed, you were where you were at, but she just pushed you to, this even a model we use in our frat. Like we say, the better making of men. You're already a man. You're already
Yeah.
secure in who you are.
Yeah.
But there was something else that bigger that she saw in you, and she was able to give you that support, to give you the confidence to be the head.
Yeah. It was, with or without her, I was gonna be all right.
Good. Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
But it's like Neo said song, I'm a movement by myself, but I'm a force when we're together. Right.
Mm.
And so it was just that extra, because, so there are guys like us, Corey, that we could do like the bare minimum and still kind of come out on top.
Yeah.
Still
Yeah.
be experience success. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
she was like, I'm not gonna let you do the bare minimum, dude. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you could be more than this, and I'm gonna push.
Right.
I'm gonna support that, and we're gonna have these vulnerable moments, and we're gonna take breaks and whatever. But there's
Right.
more to you, and I'm gonna and
Mm.
I'm gonna pour into that and invest in that and push that, and not allow you to settle for you using your gifts to get over. Like, you're gonna have to work hard, and I know there's more in you, and I'm pushing that and I'm pulling it out of you, and that was it for me.
Now that's 17 years, right? And
17 years married.
that's 17 years of doing that. Let's talk to the guys in training, the young men, the men who are
Yeah.
30 and under and still trying to develop and get to where we are in a sense of maturity in our mindsets. What would you tell these younger guys coming out of a different culture in the hookup culture, trying to find a good woman? What would you tell those men in training who are trying to find a good woman what they need to do?
Well, for the men who were 35 and older, and who kind of raised in the hookup culture, but you're serious now. There's some things that you will have to accept that some of your peers who got married earlier didn't have to deal with, or didn't have. There's some compromises you got to make, because
Hmm.
at this age, at 35 and older, the women you meet will most likely have already been in some at least one very serious relationship.
Hmm.
All right. And they're carrying something from that relationship. May have been married already, may
Hmm.
have children or a child already.
Hmm.
So there are going to be some things that you will have to compromise and accept that may be a little bit different than if you would have gotten married in your 20s,
Hmm.
or been serious about dating or marriage in your 20s. Right. So
Hmm.
be open to that. Right.
Right. Hmm.
Um, that's the first thing. I think the second thing is, Um, again, those going back to some of those first things I said, you have to be able to manage the issues
Mm-hmm.
and look for somebody who's able to communicate their issues and manage those issues with along with you.
Mm-hmm.
And then understand that. So at this stage of the game, I think the men that I talk to, they
Mm-hmm.
want the woman to have it all. Like they wanted you to to have it together,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not fair,
Right.
right? Because 9 times out of 10, we don't have it all together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you will be meeting a woman who is coming out of something or going
Mm-hmm.
into something, which means that she is evolving,
Right.
she's changing, she's growing,
Mm-hmm.
and so be patient. But be able to understand that there's a shift happening and that you have to be able to roll with that and shift with
Mm-hmm.
that. It's different, man. Women also need more in the 30s, late 30s, 40s, need more sense of security because
Mm.
they know that there are more women out there available to you.
Mm.
They know that there aren't very many men available to them. So there are some things that come across as insecurity, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe because the world has women more insecure right now. There are
Mm.
not a lot of guys out there. So be willing to go the extra mile to make them feel secure, right?
Mm-hmm. What are some things you would tell people about that? I struggled with that for a period of time when I was in my 20s. But what are some things that you can, what I call it, reassuring them? What are some things or do you know some things that you do already, or you give, or you hear some of the guys struggle with that?
Man, tell them everything. I mean, it sounds simple. I know it's not as simple as it sounds, but
Mm-hmm.
you'll be surprised. Like just just tell them, let them
Mm-hmm.
know what's going on. Be
Mm-hmm.
transparent from the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and then give them the option to decide whether or not they want to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because what to us it was, I was just getting to know you, and I didn't know if I could share this
Mm-hmm.
with you.
Mm-hmm.
But for them, and this is a generalization, so there are exceptions. But
Mm-hmm.
for them, it's you were hiding something from me.
Right.
That's what they hear, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you would hide that, what else are you hiding,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think one of the things that helps women feel secure at this stage in life is that you're open, honest, and transparent with them from the beginning,
Right.
and then give them the option. Just and listen, now this is me. Take some time, think about it, digest it, process it, and let me know if you want to move forward. If not, at least you know.
Right. Right.
Right. So I think that would be helpful.
Well, I'm gonna wrap us up.
Okay.
I love having our conversation, man, but I want to touch on a few things before we close out. You talked about, definitely the trust factor, holding each other accountable. I say each other. I know we talked about you and what you wanted, but this is what I wanted to bring from men or pull out of men so they can hear these are the things that make us tick, that make us want to be involved with you, or to make us say, this is the one, she's the one, she's different. Because again, we're in a culture of hookups and a cancel culture where people aren't even building a trust. What is that?
Mhm.
Holding each other accountable. What is that? Like, even I don't even hang with anybody that doesn't hold me accountable. I can't do it, Nate. Not
Right.
even a little bit. Even some of the friends that we've known for years, I can't even talk to anyone because they don't. We can't hold each other accountable. Because I know that you love me, I love you as a man, and we're gonna hold each other accountable to a certain
Absolutely.
degree, so that we can be better men. And if
Right.
we're better men, the world will be a better place too. And also, I heard you say, she's helped you be better in that accountability. She wanted the best for you because she knows that if you're the best that you can be, you're going to be the best for the family. That's the connection.
You are
And
going
so,
to be the man for us.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. If you're not taken care of, then mama can't be okay. Daddy can't, the kids can't be okay. So
Right.
that is a skill. I wish we can have more. We can have more and more talks about this type of topic. This is our second series, so thank you so much for having this conversation with me, giving your insight of into your marriage,
Man,
and
thanks for
to
having me.
please tell our viewers where they can find you, where they can listen to you, your social media tag, all that stuff.
It's real simple, man. Nate Robinson _3. Nate Robinson on Facebook, Nate Robinson _3 on Twitter and Instagram. My church is Greater St. Paul. If you're looking for me there, you can go to Greater in the Grove, at Greater in the Grove on everything: YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Greater in the Grove. But Nate Robinson _3, that's me. You can look for us and find us, and hit me up, man. I answer DMs. Like I said, I'm certified to counsel. So if you're looking for a conversation, if you're looking for a serious relationship, or you having challenges in your marriage, please reach out to me. More than happy to schedule an opportunity to meet with you virtually or in person.
Thank you so much. Again, I'm going to send some people your way that I know that really need that type of information, so they can have a better and healthier relationship. But thank you so much for listening to our podcast and our show tonight. See you next time from the Brother to Brother Show. Thank you, listeners and viewers, for coming onto the show. You can find us at tomorrowsmen.com, on Facebook at Tomorrow's Men, and on Instagram at Tomorrow's Men. Please click and subscribe to the button below. I'm your host, K-Mo. Until we meet again, know we love you, work with us, be with us, and know we're coming from the heart.